Hello and welcome to a brand new section for those of you who watch my channel. This is something a bit different. I normally do vlogs and things like that, but because of the current climate, you have to adjust. And to be fair, I found that this type of content is the kind of content that I watch myself. So I thought, why not try and make my own? So today I'm joined by a familiar face to those of you who watch the channel. I think one of my first vlogs is with Osman as well. So welcome to Osman. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys doing? All right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thanks. So this is my podcast, which I started on Spotify, but I find as though the YouTube is a much more better medium to kind of have this on. A lot more people would like kind of watch YouTube-based content. I watch a lot of YouTube-based podcasts, so like Joe Rogan and all of these different like football related ones. So I thought, why not do something for myself? So the topic that I have decided today is the not so subtle bias in sport. A few things that we've had recently in the news. We'll take it step by step, not necessarily chronological, but one of the first things I've noticed recent times, obviously the Marcus Rashford thing was very big. You know, his scheme for children, which we all obviously, stand behind, we support, except for those people in the comments. Have you actually gone to his comments and just read on Twitter what people write?
So what's in the comments? Tell me.
So it's thinly veiled racism, basically. Thinly veiled racism. So basically it'll be like, stick to football, mate. You don't know. Don't tell me where my money should go. Things like that. And I'm like, how can you be against it? Like, how can you really be against children from families who can't, like, financially not stable or strong, who can't feed their children, and children who get their meals only in school? Why would you be against them getting more meals out of time? So there's like all these, no face accounts with the British flag on, saying stuff like, don't tell me what to do with my money. You're not the government.
Shall I tell you what makes me laugh, right? I don't know whether
I think your volume is a little bit low. So I don't know if you want to bring it closer to your mouth.
Sure, I'll bring it closer. Is that better?
Yeah, better.
Okay. I don't know what makes me laugh or whether it's to do with being Pakistani or an Asian, but the English flag, we always seem to associate with racism straight. So how you just said it was the English flag or Britain flag.
Yeah.
And it's shocking that the national flag of the country we're born in is just associated with racism. And that is highlighted by those comments was under the Marcus Rashford thing.
Yeah, so that I found that a bit weird. But anyway, so he's doing really good work. He's got his MBE, no problem. But yet, a few weeks ago, there was a headline in the paper, and don't quote me on this, it's not word for word, but basically it was along the lines of Marcus Rashford, charitable campaigner, has now purchased £2 million worth of property.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, how are you making the association? Like, how are you making this association? Like, why would you make the association of charitable campaigner who now has £2 million worth of properties? He's a rich guy. Like, he's a rich guy. Somehow they're trying to, I don't know whether they're trying to make the connection of he's funding for charity. So maybe he's, I don't know, using that charity money, or I just found it really strange.
Let's just be transparent.
Yeah.
He's a black footballer who's successful, earning money, and whatever he does positive is always tarnished. We did it with the UK English media has done it with Raheem Sterling, was another example. So regardless, there was no rationale behind that comment about the 2 million house purchases.
This is what I mean.
There's no logic.
This is the topic that we're going to discuss in a little bit more detail in this thing, is why there is this media bias when there is this underlying racism. There's no doubt about it. There is an underlying racism, but it seems to come out in the most ludicrous of ways. So you've got like charitable campaigner, buys £2 million worth of houses. I'm like, what do you need to say? Whereas someone like Phil Foden buys a £2 million property for his parents, and it's like, oh yes, good on you, buying a £2 million house for your family. There's a little bit of double standards for sure.
Agreed. I don't think it's a little bit. I think it's as transparent, unless you're walking around with your eyes closed. It's open racist or media, and it's actually targeting, and I would say openly targeting black footballers as an example. I mean, if there was a Asian footballers, I feel they would also target.
I think your connection has gone a little bit down, so I don't know if you want to. Are you back?
I am back. Can you hear me, or is it just?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, so just got a quick comment. So Inam's watching. He said the UK flag is pretty much a deviation to the East India Company, colonialist Britain. So not so surprised it's considered a racist flag or the emblem for the NF, etc. Yeah, very good point. It was obviously put everywhere when Britain was conquering the world, so to speak. So I can see why. Obviously, it's sort of a sign of we're better than you, and it does have that sort of connotation to it, don't you think?
I mean, openly, even our country's name is the Great Britain or like, we have an adjective in front of it, Great Britain.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. That's obviously a throwback to obviously the times where conquering the world and pillaging other countries and extracting their resources made you great. But that's a whole different topic for a different show.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is so the Marcus Rashford thing I found distasteful, let's just say. I find let's talk about Raheem Sterling. You talked about Raheem Sterling when he was growing up, when he was a young footballer. There was all sorts of things coming out in the papers in terms of, I think he's got tattoo of a gun. That became a big deal. Any little thing that he would do on and off the pitch becomes a big deal. I think now the heat's gone off him now, because obviously he's a big campaigner for racism, and I think that they have to kind of move away from it now. He's not targeted as much as he is, especially with the times that we live in now with racism. It's funny, actually. Racism now is a very, very big topic, but when you look at the papers, there is that underlying thing. You can't have it both ways. So why have we got this? Why have we got this double standard where 1 minute it's like BLM and this, and we should, stand for race, like, these campaigns in football, stand for racism and things like that. And then next minute you've got openly the British media targeting black people.
I think it goes, I think it's bigger than that, in my opinion. Now, we're talking about footballers as a topic. So I'm a Manchester United supporter, and I'm a big fan of Cavani.
Yeah.
Now, recently Cavani, and I don't know, the Spanish translation is reference to nigger or negro, I believe so.
Yeah.
Of whatever he was posted in response or something like so. That now, how much has the media, number one, either jumped to his defense, or why is he not being branded or like on all multiple media platforms? Why is on Sky Sports News is not daily like, oh no, he's made this where is it? Where's the news? Where's the action?
I know what you mean in terms of if a white person does it, it's not a big deal. But I think that is a different topic. And if you look at football based like social media, I think there is a big uproar, but I think that mainly comes from opposing fans wanting to make an issue out of it. But that, I understand that, yeah, it's not been a bigger deal. But then you could also say it's a lost in translation thing or whatever. There is a different thing to do with that.
But
So
they use the
maybe,
same example with Luis Suarez going back multiple years, the
yeah,
whole Pakistan.
no, yeah,
So
it is the same thing. So
when
this is
is the
probably why
concept
we'll
of
be banned.
lost in translation? When will that, that safety net disappear? Or why is it South American or whatever, or that continent openly there's acceptable to say, oh, yeah, it's lost in
Yeah,
translation? It's just
that's a completely separate topic in the sense that
okay.
South America. No, I agree. It's still, I mean, on topic in the sense that in the broader sense, it's a different topic in the sense that South America still has this as a norm, like it's a
Yeah,
normal word. But that's like something to do with their culture. It's more of a cultural thing that they need to address. Obviously, in the 21st century, they need to kind of address the fact that why is words like that in the normal common, like the vocabulary, daily vocabulary. That's an issue for them. And obviously, if they're living in Europe or living in UK in this case, then it's something that they need to be made aware of. But it's I understand it's different, but going back to that point about if a white person or a non-person of color has the thing, I think the John Terry thing was a big deal, but only because Anton Ferdinand made it a big deal. But otherwise, that probably would have been brushed under the carpet as well. So there's a lot of things that get swept aside for certain people and not for others. Inam says, do you gents think that if footballers boycott social media or media outlets, their impact to social media outlets will be big, therefore resulting in them controlling targeted racism? What do you think?
I think in today's day and age, it's extremely challenging to boycott social media. Plus,
Yeah.
the other thing is, it's what they do on social media is adding value. So, for example, the awareness, Marcus Rashford, we use Marcus Rashford as a prime example, but free school meals and stuff. So, I think if he didn't have, or if he wasn't using those sort of platforms, then it wouldn't have that much of a wider audience or that much of an impact.
That's a very
And I
good
think the
point.
BLM one's another example of where those social media platforms have benefits. So I think it's extremely challenging to boycott it. I think what they can do is probably the newspapers that print this material and stuff is obviously not purchase it, or not promote it. But other than that, I think out and out boycott is quite difficult to do so.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, great point that he did use the power of social media to push his message. So I suppose you can't have it both ways, that you're using it in the way you want and then boycotting it when you read something that you don't like. But the thing is with social media, it's not all right. Yeah, there's certain organizations have their page, but the majority of the content is user generated. So if you do get racism or whatever, that's basically the people that use it rather than the specific outlet. Because like say if you're like the Sun newspaper or the Mail newspaper, you've only got your a channel, isn't it? You haven't got like 50 accounts or 1,000 accounts. You've only got your one account. So it's a different thing. So going into this social media thing, another thing that I read on social media that I found a bit upsetting. Not upsetting, but I just found that it's a parallel to life. So what you see that happens in general day-to-day life is also applying to this particular person. I talk about Mesut Ozil. So Mesut Ozil, footballer, German international, has pretty much been thrown to the side by his team Arsenal. And the only thing that I can roll it back to is where this relationship deteriorated between him and the club was when he posted in support. I think he posted in support of Chinese Muslims. So since he's posted about Chinese Muslims, he obviously brought the issue to light. I think there was a big uproar in China. Chinese sports stations started to boycott Arsenal. They didn't want to show Arsenal on their channel as long as he was playing. So under pressure from financial factors, he has been pretty much thrown to the side and his career is just getting wasted. What do you think? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah. So even quite recent, just a few hours ago, I haven't heard the interview. And Jack Wilshere was actually on the interview with, I don't know, it was on Sky Sports. He just highlighted how the importance Mesut Ozil would be to the team. And just to reiterate why Mesut Ozil openly is because he has, not defended, sorry, he's protested against the atrocities against the Muslims in the concentration camps of China, and he's protested against that. And ultimately now, as a result of his protest, he's been ostracized. And the club has ostracized him, not only clubs, but sponsors. I think he has an Adidas sponsor or something, so he's lost money in his sponsorship deals, broadcasting rights, and other rights. And he is now the invisible man. Is nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be seen. And I'm not an Arsenal fan, but the club is not as in the league at the moment from what their performance is. I don't see them performing that great. And you've got other international footballers or footballers who played for Arsenal saying how much value add it would be to have Ozil back in the team. So not a football expertise, and then the question we need to ask is why is he not? And openly, as you've said, is because of the sport. And I agree it is because of the sport, what he's done for supporting the Muslims and, against the atrocities, what's happening in China at the moment. And that's it, openly. And that's how black and white it is as well. I don't think there's any grey area to it. It's that transparent.
So you can't have you can have an opinion as long as your opinion is in line with other people's opinions or your employer's opinion. So that's a bit of a unfortunate one. Maybe, I don't know, maybe needs to be some sort of contractual thing where you can't talk about political issues and things like that. But I think that's a shame. Again, Marcus Rashford did it in a way, a positive way. Mesut Ozil should have he should be able to do it as well. And
why
I feel as though it's because it was a Muslim issue.
100%. Me personally, why is it a question that, as an individual, take away from the football perspective, why are they not able to formulate an opinion on, or why they're not able to express themselves in whether they support or against for due cause? I mean, I think going back a few years ago, in the ECB, I think Mo Ali had a free Palestine wristband or something, and there was an absolute uproar. It was like, and then the rationale was, it's a type of jewelry, or it shouldn't be whatever. But in the same breath, you can say, well, when people are wearing poppies or representation of poppies, now, would there have been an uproar if Mo Ali didn't wear a poppy, or why could that? If you're going to get rid of political stances or stances on defending or expression or anything like that, then you're going to out and out remove it completely. You can't say, well, you can't have the free Palestine thing, but you have to wear a poppy or you have to whatever accommodate to these requirements. I mean, the whole BLM sort of now, if you're not in favour of it, but where you're taking a knee and stuff like that, it's like what I'm trying to say, unless it doesn't meet the current genre or current criteria ironed out by the Football Association or whether it be the Cricket Association, then they don't want to hear it.
Yeah, so basically the governing body is sort of deciding what is acceptable in terms of a political stance and what isn't. Yeah.
100%.
So Ozil is an example for speaking out against Muslims. Sticking to Ozil, there was also a problem with him and the German national team. So he came out with a statement, this is a little while ago, where he said there was a lot of racism within the German national team. And I think it was a few players came out and said, oh, no, that's not the case, etc., etc. One of them was Toni Kroos. He said that he didn't have no, it's not the case, etc. But Toni Kroos has got previous. Toni Kroos has said there is no racism towards, for Mesut Ozil. He's openly fallen out with Leroy Sané. And recently he came out and said that Aubameyang is not a serious player because he wore the, when he used to do the mask celebration,
Yeah, sure.
the Black Panther celebration.
Yeah.
So Tony Cruz is looking a bit sketch to me. He's looking a bit dodgy in the sense that I'm telling you, Tony Cruz, like, if you look at the three examples, I think we can kind of see that there seems to be a little common theme now. And now, I don't know Tony Cruz personally, but that seems a bit dodgy. That the three people that he seems to have issue with are people of ethnic minority, of color, yeah, basically. So I don't know about Tony Cruz. I thought he was a good player, but he's like raising his one arm raised celebration away from letting us know what he is. He's just waiting he just needs to stick his right arm up in the air with his palm out, and we'll know what his cards are.
Yeah.
So that's it. So that he said that about a few players. So Aubameyang again, another, as you alluded to earlier, young black male with a lot of money, who people seem to have a problem with. So these are the many examples. If there's people watching this and they think, you know what, you're just talking crap, or you may, we can keep bringing out examples. We're just trying to highlight a certain issue here. If you want more examples, we could probably give you more examples. If you want to give us something against that, if you think that this is not the case, if you think that no, there is no media bias, there is no subtle racism, etc., let us know. And please provide examples, because I always like to see people with the British flag explaining themselves. They always have an explanation for these sort of things. So I'd like to know, because this is the way I see it. This is the way when I read certain papers or read certain articles, the unfortunate thing, the most unfortunate thing, is the fact that it's just like the norm now. Like, I don't even get upset by it, like outraged by it. Like before,
you become
maybe
climatized.
This is the worst thing, though. This is the thing that we need to worry about the most, is the fact that we are literally being like trained and just acclimatized, or whatever, psychologically conditioned is the word I'm looking for. We've been psychologically conditioned to kind of just be like, yeah, it is what it is, which is the worst thing. So to tie this together, to bring out a nice example which kind of ties in why there's a bias, a direct comparison we're going to go with: Mason Greenwood and Phil Foden involved in the same incident, the exact same incident, but one, no prizes for guessing who, is still being talked about today in many different negative connotations. He doesn't train properly. His club are worried about him. He's going off the rails. He's going to be the next flop. But the other person involved in this, have you heard anything about him?
No. Even to the extent where Gareth Southgate in his national team after that has brought him back into the squad, but didn't bring Mason Green. So now, people would argue, oh, is it just because it's a Manchester United thing? And yeah, there is an element of Manchester United tends to be targeted quite a lot in the media. So everything United does is, and maybe a United bias there, but we are the bigger club. Let's just
the thing is that they don't have that many fans to make it social media content or to push newspapers or whatever. They literally just don't have the numbers. They don't have the following. They don't have the numbers. So there's no point. No one's really going to.
So I think that may play a small part on it, but I don't think that's the underlying reason. It is, again, like, because obviously historically I think they did something similar with Wayne Rooney, but it wasn't as continuous. I think it was something to do with some prostitution story or something like that going back, and memes and whatever came out of it at that time. But so I think there's always going to be a question, because Manchester United is a bigger club, so is going to gain more media attention, and but I think, again, yes, 100%, Mason Greenwood, and because he's a black young footballer.
Yeah, so it's got to a point where he's been targeted so much in the media, I think it's affected his performance. So it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that, oh, he's going off the rails. He's no longer, the more you say it, the more you negatively target these people, especially because they're so young. It's going to have that effect on them. And then it depends on the people around you, your character, whether you can kind of overcome it and get through it. Like, Sterling got through it, and now he's one of the top performers at his club. But not everyone's going to have that mentality, so it is something that they need to look out for. Finally, because like I said, we've talked about a lot of examples. I think the person that I want to talk about, who is probably been targeted the most for many different reasons, footballing and non-footballing, or any player who is of color and who's Muslim. So the two perfect combinations in terms of if you're racist media editor, Paul Pogba. So I personally feel as though he's targeted A, because he's black, and then B, I think the Muslim element helps sort of like, oh, let's give him an extra push. Do you think that?
Yes, and I also think because he's not English, and I'll explain. I think that adds to it, because even as an example, on the slide on whether it's match of the day or any football punditry, it's Martial or Pogba, or like always like the non-English players are like thrown to the like wolves, if you would say.
Yeah.
And then I think, and I truly like, I can't understand, and this is like embedded across even like other footballers have come to his defense, but yes, 100% black footballer, young, paid well, talented, is a social media personality, is that's why he's targeted, in my opinion.
I think that the fact that he's Muslim, but not like openly, I think they kind of.
I think that adds to it. That adds fuel to the fire.
I think it kind of makes it a more juicy target, even though they're not. They never mention any. I think there was actually no. This is why I was talking about Paul Pogba. Yeah, so a report came out, which later was denied, that Paul Pogba is going to boycott the French national team due to obviously the issues that, was it the president, the prime minister, the president?
Macron.
Yeah. So Macron had said basically that Muslims are terrorists in a roundabout way. I think that would have been good had Paul Pogba got behind that, but I think that would have ended his career. And I don't think he's that guy who's going to stand up. But this is the thing. So I think that was whoever put that report out, I think was very clever. And I think they did it to promote the story, because I think I read about that story a few days, say whenever the story came out, it was a few days before I heard about it. So I was like, oh, this is really Pogba, not really like him. Then because Paul Pogba's name was mentioned, the story began to spiral. Yeah. So despite it was nothing to do with him, I like the fact that they used a big personality's name to try and run the story, because 2-3 days after that, it really picked up pace and everyone was like throwing out their like Volvic and Garnier and whatever they were throwing out.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. Another comment from Inam, and he's like, did he not start the black and white wristband movement? Who started the black and white wristband movement?
I'm not sure. Was it Pogba?
Inam, if you want to let us know who's that, I'm not sure. Black and white, is that like the anti-racism one? I'm sure Paul Pogba is big on the anti-racism thing anyway.
No, of course. But like I think he is definitely very big on it. The French national team's made up of like multiple nationals from across the globe, majority from African continent. So, but as a country, I think and this is probably going off a little bit of topic, but where you do have alternate leaders and they're like are treated, or like you said Muslims are terrorists openly, or and black people in France from own other experiences are treated to an extent at times like second-class citizens.
French people, I'm not going to say French people. I'm going to say France in general. Like first time I went to France was maybe I was at uni, so a few years ago, and overtly, like openly,
Yeah,
they do not like I literally went to a shop to ask for directions, and it was just like, go away, see you later. Like it was like these little things that were adding up, and I'm like, this is a bit strange. And then but when it came to like other people, like white people, it was like, oh yeah, they were like, oh, I'll take the picture for you. And all of a sudden they they're willing to kind of speak
yeah,
broken English, but when it comes to like, no English, go, like
yeah.
rudeness like that. So I don't really want to talk
I've
about
openly, again, I've openly seen and been told, obviously I'm not a French speaker, a young Arab guy was speaking French, and the lady in French said to him, "This thing can speak French."
Wow.
So, yeah. So it was just like not even to associate the person as a human being. So
Wow.
yeah, I
Can you
mean,
still hear me, by the way?
yeah, I can. I've lost your image.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of the issue with the
But
camera.
yeah,
But that's fine. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. Seems to be having a few technical difficulties, but thank you for joining me. We're going to be back again with more content similar to this, all different types of things from different people talking about different topics. But I want to thank you for joining me today. Hopefully we'll get you on again. It's been an interesting debate. If anyone wants to add to the debate, we can do so in the comments. I'll be reading them. If you liked what you saw, share, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. We'll be back next time. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
thank you. Goodbye.